Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&As, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Been deadlifting 3x3 every 4 to 5 days with belted squats 5 times 3 twice a week, and my lower back is constantly sore. Even with stretching out, is there any way this can be minimized or eliminated? I don't know, maybe reduce the amount of deadlifting you're doing, or start looking at the intensity you're doing. I mean, if you're doing 3x3, that's going to be more than once a week. Are you taking those sets to close to failure? What's your technique look like? You need to probably look at the technique on your squats. You need to make sure you don't have any lumbar rounding happening on squats. You need to make sure you're not good morning those. And by good morninging, we're not talking about the upper back, guys. We're talking about the lower back. You need to look at the way you're deadlifting. You need to start filming your deadlifting and see what's going on there. See what's going on from the side. And maybe even, again, what I've noticed sometimes when hamstrings are weak, sometimes it can cause some lower back soreness on the deadlifts. So something you need to address. Maybe start looking at that, seeing if you have weak hamstrings. Maybe if you have to add in some glute ham raises if you have access to it, just for a little while. But I would look at all that. In worst case, I may do some hamstring isolation or some Romanian deadlifts. But that's the things that I would look at. So number one, looking at the technique on your squat and deadlift. Number two, make sure you're not taking multiple sets, because you're doing sets across on the deadlift. Make sure you're not taking them to failure. And really start looking at your form and your lower back position on your squat and your deadlift, and see if you can fix those things first. That's most likely what it is. All right, next question. Hi Jason, we know the health risks of frying foods in oil, but what say you to lightly sauteing or stir frying meat and vegetables in a drizzle of olive oil in a hot pan for flavor? The reason you drizzle oil in them is to keep it from sticking to the thing. You can always drizzle a little bit of oil on them afterwards. And I'm not saying a dab of oil is going to be a problem. But this is 2018. We're not cooking everything in just cast iron skillets anymore. And maybe you are now. If you are, I understand. Like if you're doing it in a cast iron skillet, you might need to drizzle a little oil. But I would also recommend maybe you learn how to season your cast iron pan a little bit. There are things you could do. I'm sorry, I guess the word is curing it. They can help with that. If you choose to go a little more old school like that, there's things you can do with the metal to help with that. But that's a different topic completely. But yeah, ultimately, like, you can drizzle it on top afterwards, or when it's near done. I mean, again, if you're worried about the added oil. But I think a little drizzle probably isn't a problem. But, again, you need to ask yourself, does it really make a flavor difference to do that? I don't think that it does. I think you can drizzle it on afterwards if you really want the olive oil for flavor and for the extra monounsaturated fats. Just my opinion on it. All right, next question. Coath. Why could I easily squat 275 for reps a couple weeks ago, yet yesterday struggled with 245, no changes in weight or anything? Is this just an off day? What sort of variables cause these undulations in strength? Well, first of all, I don't know, man. Maybe you spend too much time imitating people like Jason Genova. That could be hurting your results, because it gives you a messed up mindset and makes you weird. But that part aside, fatigue. Just residual fatigue. You're saying no changes in weight or anything. I'm not so sure about that, because if you could easily squat 275 for reps, right? You said the word easily. That means that the last rep was easy. That means you weren't even taking this stuff to failure. You didn't push yourself that hard then. Now, if you did, that's a different story. Maybe you were pushing these 275s all out failure, and now you've got the residual fatigue from your overall accumulation of fatigue and volume. But when you say no changes, has your diet changed? Has your sleep pattern changed? Has your daily activity changed? Has your stress changed? Hopefully people understand that these undulations in strength and recovery are affected by what you do outside of the gym more than anything else also. It's not just your training loads. It's your sleep pattern, your stress levels, your other physical activity. Something else in your life might need to be rebalanced and readdressed. Otherwise, you're just going to have to deal with a slight loss in strength, because ultimately, that's your only two things that could have happened. You've either accumulated so much fatigue, maybe again pushing sets too hard, too many to failure, or too much volume. It could just be an off day. You could be sick, or it could be other lifestyle factors in your life that are causing stress. And that stress affects your training. It affects your recovery. And like I said, it could simply be a nutrition issue. It could be a sleep issue. It could be a stress issue. So without looking at everything that you're doing up to and including even the rest times between your sets, I couldn't tell you. I'd need to see your entire life to answer that question. Like, you might even need to hire a coach who analyzes what you do 24/7 to get a real answer. Something in there's causing it. And if you can't afford a coach, you need to figure it out yourself. All right, next question. Advice on squat shoes, deadlift shoes on a budget. I assume any old flats are fine for deadlifts, but are sneakers with a stiff, thick pump on the heel all right? Around what weight will they serve me to before they compress too much? Should I just shell out and buy proper squat shoes? And if so, which brands, etc., is the best value for money? Thanks, coach. You need to find shoes with no give in them. The squat shoes is a separate topic, but if you're looking for something with no give, Chuck Taylor's work boots. Look, I went and bought cheap work boots, and that's what I was deadlifting in for a while to create a small deficit, but they have an ultra hard heel. Anything with a pocket or cushion in the heel is a no-go. You need hard rubber or rubber with wood or metal or whatever inside of it. You don't want any give. How much is too much give? Any at all. Running shoes, basketball shoes, tennis shoes, completely out. You do not squat and deadlift in either one of those. Real bad idea. Real bad idea. I also thought was interesting on that token, like a big deal was made online because I coached a short deadlift seminar a while back at a place. It wasn't publicly announced by me, and it was just for a local gym, and I didn't get paid for that, by the way. People noted that one of the guys in the photos was wearing sneakers, and people like ripped on me for that. It's like, I actually talked to the guy about that, believe it or not. And by the way, a bunch of basically trolls harassed and attacked that business, by the way, for letting me give some of their clients free advice on the deadlift, by the way. So nice job, guys. You guys attacked an actual legitimate gym business just trying to get going purely for me teaching some people how to deadlift correctly, and that included me correcting that guy's choice of shoes. People are morons out there, absolute morons, with no respect for other people's businesses and stuff. All right, next question. Oh, sorry, before we get on to that next question, let me answer your thing about squat shoes. Just get some cheap Adidas. If you don't have a budget that allows for you to buy something like the Adipowers like I have, companies like Adidas make budget weightlifting shoes also. Maybe you're getting confused because you're searching for squat shoes specifically. Look for weightlifting shoes. Weightlifting means Olympic lifting, right? That's what weightlifting actually means. So they'll have the elevated heel. So any of the weightlifting shoes, you can go on Amazon and find cheaper ones by Adidas and Duwin and Nike and everyone else. They're all out there. All right, next question. Will you eventually switch to a high volume program to cut off the rest of the duck butter and finally put the haters to rest? No, that's stupid. That's stupid. How about I just keep my calories lower and my protein higher? What are your thoughts on high volume programs such as Gironda's 8x8? Do you think it's a double-edged sword? Look, Gironda's 8x8, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Are we still talking about programs like that in 2018 from the 70s and stuff by guys who were kind of out there? Gironda was big on 8x8, 10x10, all that stuff with really lightweight, really slow reps, stuff like that. I might like some of the full body training from older eras, but no, I don't think Gironda stuff that's good. Gironda was against compound movements, first of all. He was opposed to most compound movements, believed that everything should just be isolated and really, really high volume, super slow training. It's absurd. You shouldn't even be considering that nonsense. And 8x8, I'm sorry, that's going to be really, really lightweight. Now, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but you better realize that's something you're only going to do for a short phase. It's not something you should be doing in the long term if you're trying to gain strength and size and all that stuff. Again, it wouldn't be something that would appeal to me personally or that I would endorse, but do what you want to do. It's your training results. All right, next question. How much does inflammation and soreness contribute to stalling on barbell lifts? My chest receives a lot of soreness compared to other muscles in my body. Does this mean that some people should do less volume with movements that work those muscles that get inflamed more easily? No. Inflammation happens. It's just part of training. But soreness and inflammation are not the same thing. You could be getting soreness due to either too much volume excessive negatives, too much stretch overload, things like that. There could be a lot going on. A lot of guys, something like your chest, that's an interesting one, because I get more chest DOMs and stuff from dead hang pull-ups and chin-ups than anything else. Like pressing doesn't really do that to me personally. So I've kind of got to wonder what it is that you're doing with your training. Now, if you're getting a lot of DOMs in your chest, I'm going to ask what exercises are you doing? Are you doing a bunch of isolation work for it? That'll cause connective tissue inflammation faster than anything. Are you doing a lot of really deep dumbbell work for it? Are you sure it's your chest and not your rotator cuffs? Maybe you're doing some stuff where you flare at the bottom. Particularly bad for guys who do dumbbells. Without knowing what it is that you do, you can't say what's causing that soreness. Or it could just be too much volume. Maybe you're doing 25 sets of bench press every week and that's too much for you. Now, if you're not, then that's a different story. I guess people need to look at this and tell me what program you're running, because all of those different things can contribute to excessive soreness, right? Too much volume, too much stretch overload, too much isolation, not frequently in training that body part enough. There's a lot of factors that you need to look at. Can the soreness prevent overload? Can it slow progress? No, not really. Excessive inflammation of the connective tissue might, but DOMs in general isn't going to slow down your progress. But if you're getting that sore from it, you need to step back and really assess what you're doing with your program. You need to look at your overall program and figure out what you're doing wrong, because you shouldn't be sore all the time in any given muscle. You shouldn't be, unless you're competing at that level as an athlete to where you're having to push that absolute limit in a competitive environment. Then that's a little bit different. But, if you're just trying to get reasonably big and get a 300 bench press, yeah, that shouldn't be necessary. You shouldn't be experiencing that. There's something wrong with your training programming or your technique. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.